All right, so welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where we're here to live a life on purpose, to flourish and be fulfilled in all areas of our life. So today, we had a beautiful conversation at the breakfast table, and with the energy, I was like, "What? How can I serve um, this energy that's being presented within multiple members of our community?" And I even struggle with this at times. And so it's one, understanding authority and placing yourself under submission. So one, I'd like to just start with um, understanding authority. So what, how can you distinguish that, and how do you perceive authority or people with positions of
Excellent question. Let me just let's the last word you use, power. Let's start there. People how'd you say people with authority and power?
power?
Is that
Yeah, or positions with of power.
positions
Yeah.
of power? Yeah. So let's say what power is. Let me distinguish power. So power is not force, force is not power. Although commonly when people speak about power, what they really mean is force. People are afraid of power because you'll be forced into something. So power is something very simple. Power is your ability to accomplish something, sort of minus the time and effort it takes to accomplish it. So if you were trying to create a village in Costa Rica, for example, a sustainable village with 30 or so villagers who were living from the same purpose, working together as a team. And if you could accomplish that in a year or two, that would be very powerful. If it took you 30 years to accomplish that, that would be quite a bit less powerful. So power is like very simple. It's just literally your ability to accomplish a thing minus the time and energy it takes to accomplish it. Force, however, is making others do what you want them to do. So they're completely different and they're often conflated. They're often related to as the same thing. So people with power, positions of power, are people who can accomplish great things with less time and energy than most others. So when I'm around people with power, I'm enlivened. I'm interested because I I like power, and I can hear it when I say it. I can hear myself hearing it in the way that I'm saying don't hear it. Like, power? What are you talking about? No, no, no.
No,
I love being able to
not
accomplish
that.
great things with less time and energy than before. So I'll say it again. I love being powerful, meaning I love to be able to accomplish great things with less time and energy than it used to take.
Yeah,
Is
who
that
doesn't?
it? I don't think so. Depends on what you're building, depends on what you're creating. I happen to be working on heaven on earth and sustainable villages where people can be free and uh, um, building, training and leadership and creating teams and leadership that are actually contributing to in a beautiful way to the world. And, so I am at work on building big things. And as I have more and more power, it becomes easier and easier to create these big, beautiful things. So yes, I desire power. Yes, sure I do. Now, I'm also surrendered to my covenant with God, right? So the power that I have actually isn't even for me. So yes, I seek power. Yes, I seek power. You terrible person. Hold on. I seek power to fulfill God's will as best I can perceive it with less time and energy.
Oh, I
So
really loved, yeah, I really loved what you said
good.
there about I'm surrendered to God's power. So it's the power that's coming through you. And what people want is the authority and the power and the things that come with that, but they don't want to submit themselves to something.
Right. I have a story about some horses I'll tell in a minute.
I'm so glad because I'm really glad about that because I was going to ask you to do that in a minute.
I like setting things up in the most re ridiculous way possible. So I'm going to tell a story about horses. Um, let's go to authority. So authority is another thing that's universally almost completely misunderstood. So people hate authority and oh my gosh, you can't tell me what to do and I'm free and I'm in my body tell I want. Rah. Okay, cool. No problem. So quick question. If a school bus driver is driving a bus full of kids and every kid wants to go in a different direction, aren't you kind of happy the school bus driver has the authority? Especially if
Yeah.
your kid's in the bus. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So authority is just someone who knows what they're doing the thing. I don't want to get political here. I'm not, well, I'm going to refer to politics, but I'm going to intend to not be political. I'm sure people will judge that for themselves. But one thing consistent about politicians that I've noticed is utter incompetence.
Mm.
For example, one of the candidates right now is talking about price controls on food. Well, utter ignorance. So, well, that's a great idea. Yeah, cool. But every time that's been tried in history, you know what happens next? Mass starvation. There's no profit in food. Like the margins are razor thin. So the minute you start constraining what companies can charge for their food and let the market decide what people want to buy, you're going to put companies out of business. And when you put companies out of business, you're destroying the infrastructure that actually feeds the country. So just complete incompetence, like just utter incompetence. Now, it's also corruption plus incompetence. So not only people have no idea or apparently any interest in the impact on the policies that they implement and try to, there's also this massive corruption where people are trying to take for themselves, right? So anyway, um, I would love for someone with authority to show up and actually be interested in the welfare of the citizens of the country. I would love that, right? Not using force, but a powerful individual who actually has done the thinking and the consulting and is open-minded and open-hearted and is talking to people who actually understand how things work, actually how to create a civilization, a community at the level of country that actually works for people, where people, if people want to succeed, they can. If people want to chill, they can. And, just whatever, like something that works, that has integrity and is based in love, and where people can produce the results that they want in life through hard work and dedication and teamwork, right? That would be, I would welcome that. So authority is a beautiful thing. um I was once the CEO of Earthwaking University, and with that I had authority. And when we accomplished what I wanted that authority to accomplish, I surrendered that authority. So I no longer the CEO of Earthquake University. I'm simply one of the original people. So authority is for me, it's a tool to use to serve God's will. It's a tool I use to serve my brothers and sisters. It's a tool I use to create heaven on earth or sustainable villages where people can drink clean water and eat clean food and not have to inject their bodies with experimental chemicals and not have to curtail their will and their speech. Right. So um, authority is a beautiful thing if it's used for something beautiful. And authority is a very dark thing when it's used for something dark. Pretty much like everything else I've ever encountered. You take a hammer. So there's something called a war hammer, which people will use to kill each other. And there's something called a hammer, maybe there's another term, that people use to build houses, right?
Yeah.
The hammer is the hammer. Authority is authority. It's no big deal. This is that you want the people who know what they're doing, who've done the work. I lead a leadership program here. And the reason I'm leading the leadership program is because I have decades of experience in leading leadership programs, and not just experience, but actually great results, like powerful leaders who make a tremendous difference. And from that ability and from that power, I have been given authority to lead this program. And make whatever decisions need to be made. Now I consult with people, but ultimately I'm the one who makes the decisions related to the leadership program. Why is that? Because I know what I'm doing. I consistently produce results that are unusual in my field in a positive way. So I will exercise that authority to continue to improve the leadership program, to invite people into it, to make it more beautiful, more effective, more powerful. In other words, less effort in, more results out for people who engage in the leadership program. So, so that's my relationship to power and authority. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was your complete question, but that's.
No, but I love that. And I even loved what you distinguished in that was the benefits of submitting yourself and placing yourself under authority. And that's what actually gives you the authority to move with. Like, you're just the vessel, you're just the conduit of which it's flowing through. And so my next question is going to be about how to develop the skills necessary to obtain the authority that somebody's wanting to go towards or submit themselves under. So, I mean, because people want things, they want to obtain something, but they're not willing to get the skills to go through it to actually have what it is to obtain it. So,
All right, cool.
yeah.
Bring me back to that question. I'm going to tell the story about the horses now, which is partially an answer to that question. Then I want to come back and
Okay.
I probably might want to hear the question. All right, so there's these two horses. There's two wild horses. They're out in the plains, eking out a living. They're doing all right. They're two brothers, and they're two horses out in the plains, and they're eking out a living. They're, doing not so bad. They're probably don't have quite the life that they would love to have. They would probably love to have more food and more friends and that kind of stuff. But anyway, they're doing how they're doing. They're doing okay. Fair to middling, if you will, right? So then one day, the horse wrestlers show up, and they chase both horses and catch one of them. And so this horse that's left is left out in the plains by himself, eking out a living, and now he's doesn't know where his brother is. He's all alone. And these guys just came and grabbed his brother, grabbed the horse to some unknown destination for some unknown purpose. And so now the other brother's alone. And that goes on for some time, and he gets depressed and lonely, and he's doing okay. He's making it. He's making it. Just like a lot of people. Oh, yeah, I'm making it. One day he's out in the field, eating, and he's near a road, and he hears this thunder off in the distance. Like, I've never heard anything like that. But the thunder is getting louder and clearly coming in his direction. He's like getting a little nervous. Like, I don't know what that is, but it sounds big and powerful. I've never heard anything like it. And as the source of the noise comes into view, it's a horse wagon with 6 horses pulling it. And these horses look amazing, rippling with muscles, head held high, tail out in the air, pulling this thing with everything they got, sweat flying off them, working together as a team, and they are magnificent. And the horse is like, holy smokes. And then, very much to his surprise, he looks at the lead horse. And it's his brother that he lost years ago. And his brother accepted the bit, like he gave up his freedom, and he chose to serve, and he chose to surrender to his new life. And it was a beautiful life. He gets to serve, and he gets to run, and he gets fed amazing. He gets to exercise, and he's got this beautiful team, and he just looks amazing. Looks like super horse. And so the moral of the story is, if you want greatness, you must surrender to something. You must surrender to a purpose. You must give up your infantile, constant desires and preferences, I want people to talk to me this way. I want people to call me this. I want people to act this way and not that way. I want people to vote for this. I want people to eat that way. I want people to wear this and not wear that. Just on and 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 on. All of it is just completely beside any point other than just your immediate gratification, your immediate juvenile gratification. I might be triggering people. You're welcome. If I'm triggering you, then take a second look. My life was that. My life was just for me and my immediate gratifications. And I grew up very angry. I had a very dark and disconnected childhood. So I grew up angry and frustrated. And, my life was full of anger and anxiety and darkness. And I was, had fear about being able to survive or make it or actually ever accomplish anything. And, it was just rough. I'm very unhappy, very unhappy. I still accomplished a lot of things, but I'm very unhappy, deeply unhappy.
And
And
what
then,
happened when those things were taken away?
yeah, well, I built stuff, and yeah, I built a business, and it fall apart, because it was all based on desperation and fear and my personal kingdom and developing my personal reputation and wealth and me, right? I just don't know that anything that gets. I know that there are companies out in the world that are very successful who are also very selfish and corrupt and whatever, you know money first, people later kind of thing. And probably I'm sure everybody can think of a couple hundred examples in about a minute. And you could say, well, they're successful and they're what they are. But yeah, but I've been inside of some of those companies and they're lifeless and soulless. And I'm so glad I'm out of the corporate world. I'm so glad. I'm just awful, awful. And the higher you go, the more corrupt, the more subtly people are corrupt. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, we'll give you a promotion. Da, 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 da. But it's never for like whatever's going on is not for you and it's not for the customer. You know. So I'm sure there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I believe what I'm saying to be true and wise. And so there was a time when I uh, I went to a big transformational weekend. It was the Landmark Forum in 1997, and in that weekend, I realized that as a result of my upbringing, I was a liar, a thief, and a cheater. Just everything about me, from the people pleasing mask, I like the charming people pleaser mask I used all the time, hiding my anger and fear and my uh, highly skilled manipulation. I was in professional sales and I said or did anything to get that deal. And people trusted me. I realized early on that I could get people's trust easily. And I definitely used it against them and to my advantage. So I lied, I took, I cheated, I stole. But I didn't even notice. I thought I was a good salesperson. I thought I was a good business owner. I was bringing in the I was I was I was bringing it home. I was getting my job done extremely well by percentages and that kind of stuff. Except I was miserable. I started my own copier dealership in my 20s. And it was I had never worked so hard in my life. I mean, oh my gosh, just the hours and the intensity, like just the extreme intensity. I don't have the energy to even do that now at my age. I couldn't muster that kind of intensity indefinitely right now. I don't even have the horsepower for it. Just to give you a sense of what I'm referring to. I'm turning off that. And so, there I am at this transformational weekend, Landmark Forum, and I suddenly get the possibility of being a man of character. And that appealed to me greatly. That appealed to me like something I didn't know existed that was the answer that I'd been looking for.
What age were you at?
36, 36 or 37, 36, I think. And maybe 37. But anyway, so I was just so inspired. Like, oh my gosh, And for the first time in my life, I experienced peace. I'd never experienced peace before. I remember the day after that weekend, I was the weekend was in Houston. I traveled from New Orleans to Houston, so I'm staying at somebody's house that I didn't know for a few days. Someone was very generous to put me up, and I was in a bathroom. I was in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, shaving or something. I remember noticing something was very different, like really different, but I couldn't figure out what it was. But something was just wildly different. I felt great, so that was different. But it was some, in addition to feeling good, which was in of itself really different. Something else was really different. And I finally realized what it was. It was that voice, that internal voice in my head wasn't screaming fear and hate and anger at me all the time. Like I actually had peace for the first time in my life. It was
Wow.
just, it was delicious. I still have that voice from time to time, but it's not running my life anymore. It's not no longer who I am. See, that used to be me thinking. I used to think that was me thinking. Well, let me tell you what I've been thinking about all day. Not a single thought happened. That voice has just been cranking on me the whole day, right? So that's possibly another conversation to distinguish the difference between thinking and that internal voice. But so anyway, I feel like I've lost my thread a little bit.
You were the Landmark Forum, and you were changed, and you had peace for the first time in your life.
Oh, are we talking about like surrender? Like you asked me a question. Oh, access to skills and stuff. Yeah. So, so anyway, that was really beautiful for me. About a year or two later, I said yes to the leadership track, and that's when I began my leadership training in earnest. And so I had a huge inspiration. There was a mission that they had that I really found hugely inspiring, which was creating a world that works for everyone. So I took that to heart. I took that on as a personal, lifelong mission. I was hugely inspired by it. And so I put myself in a structure that I deem to be, it is world class. I deem to be world class. It's definitely a really extraordinarily powerful training environment. And, but I surrendered completely to that. And the work was extremely rigorous and long hours. And it was very arduous, very rigorous. It was very difficult. But I didn't really mind. I mean, I complained every now and then, but I stuck with it for decades. Because I was inspired by the mission. So the answer that I see that I have lived to your question is get yourself in an environment where you're actually that actually promotes you being alive from the inside out, like alive, like inspired, and then find a structure that will train you to produce what you want to produce. I saw leaders in the Landmark community, and I wanted to be that. There was two or three of them that I was just hugely inspired by their being and the way they carried themselves and the difference they made and how they articulated. It's just like, man, I would give anything to be that. And so I started off a journey that is, quite some distance, quite some distance today from those early days. But so I was hugely inspired by a whole new world that I found to be beautiful, that I was willing to pretty much do anything to enter into and maintain, which is being a man of character, being a contribution to the world, being part of a mission that's actually committed to creating a world that works for everyone. And so I did whatever I did pretty much whatever they recommended for a very long time. And a lot of it was extremely difficult, extremely scary. I kept being invited to higher levels of leadership, leading bigger and bigger things. And each step was just horrifically terrifying for me, until it wasn't. And so anyway, there you go. That's how I got myself trained.
Yeah, and I hear that. I hear that with your saying, like, get inside of an environment that supports you and supports your growth. And
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like the balance of submitting and having your own autonomy.
Yeah.
And so how would you balance and maintain submitting to authority and your individualism and your autonomy?
I feel like I can hear people listening to this going, submit to authority.
Yes.
I might
They
just be
don't
making
want
it up.
people.
I feel like I can hear that in the future.
They're like,
the the echoes and the squunched up faces are coming to me from the future. What? Anyway, so I'm sorry, I was having too much fun. Could you ask me the question again?
that's okay. It's how can one balance themselves with
Yes.
submitting to authority and
Yes.
maintaining their own autonomy and individualism?
Perfect. Okay, so let's look at those words, autonomous and individual. Okay, so I'm going to convert that to sovereignty.
Okay.
So let me justify why I'm doing that, so it doesn't, so I'm not escaping your question. I'm actually intending to go deeper into your question, not avoid it.
Thank you.
So autonomy and independence. So autonomy and independence is where I was when I described myself working myself to death. Oh, by the way, I was in my 20s. It was winter in New Orleans, which is not super cold, but it's not hot. Well, it's pretty cold, freezing, so it's winter in New Orleans. I'm in my 20s, and all of a sudden my entire body turns red, like sunburn, like literally sunburn. Touch it, it would hurt. It's literally in the middle of winter, working ridiculous hours. I wake up one morning and my entire body is sunburned, or looks and feels exactly like that. There was no sun, so I wasn't.
No, it is. It's. I've gotten sunburned by snow because of the
Well,
reflection.
no. This is not that. No,
Oh,
no
it
actor.
wasn't that?
No suit every day. I wore a suit, was in the office and in my car every day. Yeah, so now you're getting it, right? So literally ridiculous work schedule, no outdoor time whatsoever except walking from my car to an office where I was trying to close a deal, and then back to my car, back to my office where I was processing the deal, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that freaked me, and it wasn't just red, it was red and painful to the touch of my clothes. So like, it's hard for me to believe the story now. Like if someone else was telling me that I didn't trust, I would not even believe the story, right? But anyway, so this actually happened. So I go to a doctor, freaked out, and I get this old, this is in the early 90s or late 80s, right? So I get a doctor who's near retirement age, has got this old kind of easy manner about him, and he goes, son, he looks at me for a while and shaking his head and kissing his teeth, and really disapproving of something, I'm not sure what. And he looks at me and he goes, son, I don't know what you're doing, but if I were you, I'd start doing something else. I said, what do you mean? He says, this is stress and anxiety, and you're a young man. I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working. I forgot how he said it. That sounds like me, but whatever, he said it. But I got the message. As I was like, okay, I didn't like it because I was like, I was gonna rule the world through copier dealerships. This was gonna be the first of hundreds. And blah, 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 blah. I was on a mission. Rah, 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 rah. I was in my 20s, and a lot of guys are like that in their 20s. Well, I don't know about it anymore, but back in my day, that was a thing. I shortly, started to wrap up the company. But anyway, all that is to say, that's the result of autonomy and individualism. That was the result of that in my life. I took it until my body couldn't take it anymore. So that's not currently my path. And it's not because I read it in a book or someone told me about it. Like, I done tried it, right? And so sovereignty, however, is something else. Sovereignty is an acknowledgement that you are the captain of the ship that you're driving, which is your body and your life. Right? You are the captain. You will enjoy the consequences, negative or positive, of everything you say and everything you do and everything you don't say and everything you don't do, and how you impact people and how you don't impact people, and your relationship to yourself and your relationship to others. You will enjoy moment by moment, day by day, week by week, month by month. You will enjoy the consequences of all of it. Ergo, you are the captain of your ship, whether you know it, like it, believe it or not, makes zero difference. Well, then one might ask, well, what about all this surrender? And what about all this submission? Right? Okay, cool. I'm getting to that. So, sovereignty includes taking responsibility for every aspect of your life. Oh, that's cool. I'm responsible. Well, hold on. Let me say a little bit more about that before everybody's all excited about declaring how responsible they are for everything, right? So uh, being sovereign is being 100% responsible for your health, the state of your body, right? Your weight, your mobility, your blood pressure, your how you physically feel every day, your ability to move around. That's your responsibility. It's not the medical industry responsibility, it's your responsibility. You are responsible for your external environment, being broke, being wealthy, having an external environment that actually supports what you're up to, a house, living arrangement, and your ability to nourish your body and take care of yourself, maybe take care of a family. That's your responsibility, not the government's. Nothing to do with genetics, nothing to do with race. It's literally, are you choosing to be responsible for your external environment? Are you choosing to build a life that actually works for you? Being sovereign includes being responsible for your internal state. Are you happy? This gets everybody. I mean, some people are happy. Almost everybody's faking it. What I mean by happy isn't that you walk around with a smile surgically stuck on your face and the right cute little phrase you say whenever you meet people. That's not what I mean by happy. I mean, are you in peace? Do you experience love? Do you have joy? Do you have fun and play in your life? Are you surrounded by people who celebrate your success and your victories? Are you able to express yourself fully and lovingly? Are you free to have an open mind and an open heart? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got something with this. And this is free of the circumstances. Like you can
Yes.
be joy when you're experiencing the moments that can be of deep, deep sadness, but you're still
Yes.
experiencing joy. We had a funeral here, for Mama Carol, and I'd never seen
Yes.
the expression that I saw with John, deeply feeling about his mother. And I could feel it. Like we all were impacted in so much joy and having so much celebration of her
Yeah.
life. But that was true joy and the experience of deep sadness.
Yeah.
And so it's not based on the circumstances or the outward things that are happening in your life. This is an internal experience, regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to bring that in with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me
This is
just let me just
incredible.
let me just make this a little more excruciating for anybody who's listening, right? So regarding sovereignty, right? So there's the internal state, right? If you're waiting for the world and people in your life to line up so that you can be happy, that is nothing to do with sovereignty whatsoever. It's this victimhood, right?
Mhm.
Then there's your relationships, right? Are you surrounded by people who celebrate your success? Are you surrounded by people who love you? Are you surrounded by people who are willing to confront your dysfunction? Are you surrounded by people who are willing for you to confront their dysfunction? Are you surrounded by people who actually share a purpose or a mission with you? In other words, do you live in a clean fish tank? Or do you live when you take a healthy fish and put them in a dirty fish tank and it'll get sick and die? You take that same fish and you know clean him off real good and throw him in a clean fish tank and he will thrive and thrive. So are you responsible for are your relationships divine and empowering and joyful? Mine never were until they were. Um, are you alone in the universe or do you have a deep connection with God? This will be the one that's probably the most controversial, but um, there's clearly a higher power. There's clearly more going on than human beings can perceive. There's clearly a God if you'll just look. That God is clearly for us if you'll just let it in. There is love everywhere if we'll simply receive it. Loving God's not even the hard part. It's allowing yourself to be loved by God. So, you know, Are you responsible for that? Are you responsible for that? Are you waiting for God to slap you upside the head, or are you seeking him? And then two more things. Do you have a purpose in your life? Are you just following your adolescent desires from moment to moment for decades at a time? I was. I did. Everyone I've ever known did until I found myself a new fish tank.
Yeah.
You know? So are you responsible for what you're up to? Hey, this life is not forever. It's a gift. It's a gift from God. What are you using it for? Do you have a purpose? Are you up to something? Are you up to something beautiful that fills your heart and fills your soul and brings you joy? If not, why not? And the last thing is leadership. Like, are you someone who's responsible for the impact you have on the people around you? And in that responsibility, are you using your ability to impact people to set people free, to build people up, to build yourself and others free, to create freedom for yourself and others? What are you using your leadership for? I'm not a leader. Negative. Everybody's a leader. Someone's watching you. And someone's watching you and saying, oh, well, that's how they do it. I guess that's how I'll do it. Or they're watching you going, oh my gosh, I want me some of that. So the reason I say all this is until you're a sovereign human being, you have nothing to give away. I want to serve the world. Well, hold on. You're sick, you're broke, you're angry, you're alone. You're alone in the world and you're alone spiritually. You have no purpose and you're leading people to dark places. What did you want to do again? I want to make a difference in the world. I'm sorry, what was that? I want to make a difference in the world. Well, how are you going to do that? The only thing you know is exactly what people don't need. So you can't surrender and you can't submit, cannot, until you have yourself.
So true. So true.
Surrendering is the biggest, baddest warrior move ever. It is not for the weak. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for the mighty warrior in each and every one of us who actually has taken responsibility for every aspect of the life that they're living. And only then can you say, I choose to give that away in service of God, in service of humanity, in service of something worthwhile, bigger than myself. So am I submitted? You bet. But do not mistake that for someone you could trifle with.
Yeah. Would you say that that was probably the biggest struggle that you had with the submission?
Appearing weak.
And
What's your question?
with surrendering everything that you
Oh,
thought, was that the biggest struggle that you had in the beginning? And then, I mean,
well, yeah, like, it's because
in the beginning.
In the beginning, I surrendered easily. Well, which beginning you're talking about? So when I started my transformational journey, I surrendered. Like it was easy. The inspiration, the people, the fruit, like people were like talking about stuff I'd never heard anybody talk about. People were being set free in ways I never thought was possible. So once I saw that, surrender was really easy for me. Now, it was counterfeit surrender at that point because I didn't yet have myself. I had no reference of being sovereign other than I clearly saw I wanted to be a man of character and I wanted to contribute.
Yeah.
So I didn't have all of it, but I had that core. And I did a lot with that. And then many couple decades later, I meet John and then I have to surrender again. So first of all, what it took for me to be effective in that first transformational environment was beyond what I could really describe. Just the hours and the politics and just all this. It was just vast. So that went on for a couple of decades, a little more than that, and that all got set down. I was in a very dark place in my life, exhausted. There's a lot of dysfunction in that environment once I got to a higher level, which I fought to my detriment. And so anyway, I'm out of that, and I'm regrouping, recovering, and going through a very dark time. As I'm coming out of that, I meet John, and we meet at the same local event that we're both leading at, and he leads just before me. And I saw what I'd been looking for. I saw a man of purpose. I saw a man who surrendered. I saw a man of character. I saw a man of vision. And I saw a man whose words were consistent with his being in action, which I don't know that I've ever really seen before, or at least at that level. And and so the initial surrender was very easy. Yes, I'm giving my word and this is doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was a big deal for me. I'm giving my word to your word, and I will take responsibility for seeing this thing done that we're talking about. Not taking any away from his responsibility, but I'm adding my responsibility, my word, and my this shall be to his this shall be. He would probably say it differently. I'm using my language. And that was the easy part. The hard part was realizing that everything I had spent all those years learning how to do had to be put on the altar. Because where John was working from and what he was up to was different than where I came from. I was very clear where I came from. I was very clear my training and my experience of where I came from had a lot to offer to John, but I was also very clear that at the time, this wasn't the time. He needed space to grow this little seedling into a little plant, and then let it get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so I also saw that everyone else had the desire to make what he was up to in their own image. So I felt that in myself, and I saw that all around me. So I immediately put like this energetic sort of wall around John and Mel. And in practice, it was okay. Great. Oh, you want to talk to John? Great. Just go ahead and put yourself on my calendar, and you can talk to me, and I'll let you know if this is worth John's time or not. This made me wildly unpopular. Scores of people were voting my demise and trying to vote me out and undermine and get me out and talk trash about me and tell everybody I was senile. And I was just like endless until it wasn't. I get yelled at in my programs and that kind of stuff. But I didn't like it, but I was absolutely unmoved by any of the adversity, because adversity was something I've known adversity in my entire life. So it was no big deal in that sense. Even though I didn't enjoy it, I was not at risk of folding my cards. And then I just created space for John to develop himself and develop his game, develop his skills, develop his vision. And then just every now and then I would drop one thing in from my background and my experience and what I can see. And it's been that ever since. So I set everything, 100% of everything down, except for my willingness and ability to stop everybody from feeding at the trough at the same time. People were keeping him up all hours of the night doing breakthroughs, and John didn't really have the ability to say no yet. And I saw that he was about to enter the dark part of my journey, which is being exhausted and not taking care of yourself and all that kind of stuff. So boom, I'll put a stop to that in service of the future, at my own expense. And then ever since then, it's just been one little nugget at a time. And I still have this vast library in my head that has not been brought to the community, because I only bring stuff in when I see that, oh, wait, I got something for you. And I'll bring it. Well, I've never heard that before. I haven't said it in about, 10, 15 years. So I get it. So that process is ongoing, that process of surrender to the purpose rather than my desire to share all of my knowledge or wisdom or experience.
Wow. That really portrayed a vision of building trust and so that is really big. And what I witnessed today with one of our community members is this like sense of like, I can't trust people. And that's mostly like, that's true. That was true for me as well. I was just
Yeah.
going through as well as a personal thing. And, like thinking that I'm like, well, there's definitely some type of mistrust that's going on inside of myself, and so I'm like, how do I develop that? How do I, strengthen that? And so in regards to this authority, what I heard is that the way that you built your trust, one of the ways, was to submit yourself to what John was submitted to.
Yeah.
And that actually, like, you're like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to trust it, but I'm gonna trust it. Like, it was like, this is so, this shall be. And so I think it's a decision. What I'm hearing is that trust is a decision, and it comes from the inside. It's generated from the inside. And practicing it is demonstrating the reliability in oneself, the responsibility in oneself, and to be accountable for it inside of yourself first, and then your relationships. It just be a byproduct of how you're loving yourself. It's what I heard in your
Yeah.
beautiful
As
story.
as you're sharing that, the word faith kept rolling around in my head. So yeah, there's like faith is something I've never had. What I put trust in was my capacity and abilities. And therefore, much of my life was very focused on training and development so that I had more capacity because I didn't have trust. I didn't have trust in people, and I didn't have a relationship with God. And so there was just me. In my world, I was the only thing I could trust. And I'd let myself down plenty. So trust was not a thing for me. And now that started changing in my leadership development. Well, it started changing in my leadership development because, well, it got more subtle because there were people around me who were really good at what I wanted to be really good at. And most of that was beautiful, it was contribution and service. But there was definitely ego involved in the organization and myself and those who I was being trained by. And so it really wasn't until I started working with John that very slowly I opened up to having a relationship with God and Jesus. And so what I have now that I've never had before is faith in a higher purpose, faith in a higher design, faith in a higher perspective, faith in something that I very clear I have very little comprehension of. I don't profess to be expert or have any special relationship with God or anything like that. I just have faith that there is a purpose for me, there is a design for me. I'm designed the way I am and built the way I am with my flaws and my capacities and abilities, my humanity. There's something for me. There is something for me. There is something for me to be up to. There is something. There is a beautiful path for me, and I experience being on that path. But I say that with humility because the very nature of what I'm working with is, for me at least, is very subtle and it's very quiet and it's very nuanced and it's not always clear what the instruction is, but I am clear what the direction is. And the direction is heaven on earth, service, freedom, bringing my masculine and strong energy and my big heart to my work in a way that's somewhat unusual and to harness that to the best of my ability, power, right? To produce as much result as I can in service of my covenant and keep developing myself and others who would like to be developed in that direction. So as I stand here today, that's my best guess as to my highest purpose. But I remain open and, I assume that there will be I assume at some point there would be more or something different or maybe not, whatever it is, I'm not really concerned about that. I'm only concerned about fulfilling what's in front of me right now. Which tomorrow night is the first of the Master Message Masterclass. So my purpose right now is to prepare myself in whichever way that needs to be done so that tomorrow's class is literally a statement in what it is to live a life of purpose and develop the message that the world is waiting for from the darkness that you've lived through in your life. And my purpose right now is to have that evening tomorrow be just undeniably what everybody who's there has come for. And if I succeed, that'll be the experience. And if I don't succeed, then I'll learn whatever lessons there are to learn and show up next week with exactly the same intention. And I will do that until it's done. I have no idea what that'll be. Nor do I really care.
So I'm really seeing throughout this entire conversation the difference between authority and power and submission with sovereignty and surrender.
Yeah.
And the benefits of what it takes to set down all of your desires, all your preferences, all your wants, everything that you think that you want, and just set it down for what you actually need. And you might squirm a little bit. You're gonna go through some lessons.
Plenty of squirming, yes.
When you see the bigger picture as what you had just beautifully distinguished inside of your life as having walked this path already and has created something completely beautiful, and actually the power that came through you that created it with you, through you and John, and submitting to that covenant, submitting to the thing, that you're wanting to see through, no matter what. That actually is of the greatest importance in our life. And that's our freedom. That's where we get our sovereignty and our power and everything from, is from that. And so you can't have power or, without placing yourself under the authority or the submission or the surrender of something greater than yourself. So
I'm reminded of a conversation that John likes me to repeat.
Yeah.
In this conversation, I used the word commitment, but the word surrender would be 100% appropriate. So I'm committed to my wife. I'm surrendered to being married. So I'm surrendered to being in a divine union, which simply stated is a union whose purpose is to serve God. And so I'm surrendered to that. So inside of that surrender, many things, many practices I used to have are no longer on the table for me. I don't flirt. I don't fantasize about other women. I don't watch pornography. Obviously, I don't cheat on my wife. I don't disrespect that union in any way that I perceive. Maybe I missed something, but these are all practices I used to have in the past. Not cheating, but everything else. And so what I have found is the surrender of all those things is incredibly peaceful. I'm not like trying to hide anything. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not trying to get away with anything. I'm not wondering if I should be doing this or doing that. Like all the wondering and second guessing and anxiety that goes with that. You know, should I go this way or that way? Should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I do this? Well, if I just do it once, it's okay. If I do a little bit, that's fine, right? All that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful for me. And it's antithetical to everything I was ever taught. No, you need to be free, man. You need to be able to do whatever you want to. Like, no, if you look at the state of the world right now, that's the end game.
Yeah.
Nobody's on the same page. Countries aren't even countries anymore. Like, there's no commonality. There's no partnership. There's no sense of family. There's no sense of we're all in this together. There's no sense of my brother and sister. Get me down. Just turn on the evening news for about 20 minutes. And it's dark out there. And that darkness is a result of a lack of surrender, counterfeit freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
They actually labeling freedom as pride.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so much pride. Like, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of your hard work that's killing your health. I'm proud of, that I'm able to have all these women and all these different relationships, and it's prideful. It's like, that is not freedom. That is a hell.
Yeah, I was really proud of my performance as a young entrepreneur in the copy business as I was cheating and stealing and lying. I was proud of that. And people were proud of me. And I wore a nice suit. And anyway. So, to me, sovereignty is freedom. Commitment is freedom. Surrender is freedom. And I imagine that's difficult to receive for some people. And I'm pretty sure that would have been very difficult for me to receive at earlier points in my life. But I'm on that team now, and not because I'm on the team now for the same reason I do anything I do. Because I see that it moves me towards the successful fulfillment of my purpose, of what I'm up to in life. And so anything that stays in my life must move me closer to my purpose. And sovereignty and surrender absolutely is a big part of that recipe for me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Do you have a link for your Mess to Message masterclass?
Other than the Zoom link, we could put a Zoom link in the description. I don't have anything else at this time. You want to do that?
Yeah, it is. I'm going to put that inside of the description for you guys to attend the Mess to Message masterclass that Kirk is hosting tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. I would not want to miss this opportunity to find your purpose and discover your voice from the inside out and give your message to everyone out there. So, yeah, I appreciate you, Kirk. I appreciate this deep conversation. I've learned so much about the benefits of submitting, and there's a recipe in here. It's find out what it is that you want to surrender your life to, like what you're like, I'm doing that, and then get yourself into the environment that's gonna see the things that you can't, because you're inside of a picture that you just can't see fully, and that people are committed that want to go the same direction that you're going, and yeah, there is support for you here. There's going to be some links down inside of the chat below for you, and also the Visionary Leadership Program that Kirk McDowell hosts as well. And thank you for joining us on the journey with this on the On Purpose podcast. Thank you.
Super welcome, and thank you.